Good day. I know that I am rather early. Admittedly, this is another one of those days. I think I had a similar day, about 2 weeks ago? And I was honest and forthright, and I told you that I just wanted to rest. Well, that's how I feel today. I just really want to rest. But I'm not in a position where I feel that terrible that I wanted to cancel. I really want to stay diligent in this process because we have so much to do. And I don't want to lose momentum. And yes, my followers are few, my subscribers are very arguably fewer. And thank you for the 4 of you who have subscribed. I'm so grateful that you're here because this platform is most important to me. Most important to me in every possible way, for us individually, for us as a nation, for our evolution, for healing, for different ethnic groups that have been disenfranchised, for just so much. So before I go into too much of what's on my mind, before we cover, I believe it is the Commonwealth, the lowercase c of Pennsylvania for this week, which should be week 12. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll correct it in the description if necessary, okay? So I am Tigress Sydney Acute McDaniel, and this is Evolve Weekly, a 52-week series on how to implement a more perfect union. We'll begin, as we always do, with an affirmation. May I further enlarge our collective and individual understanding on the matters we will cover, and may I not cause further divide. All right. Okay. So again, there's just it. I know there are times, especially before the pandemic, especially before this unveiling, we've experienced together an unveiling of a lot of different things. Things that we not ever believed that we would see in our lifetime for some of our generations. And then even for like generations before my own, maybe baby boomers, are still looking at this like, what in the hell is going on? What in the Sam hell, right? I don't know where that colloquialism comes from. If you know, please let me know. We're not going to go into the origin of that. That brings me to the origin of WHIP for the legislature. Okay, so we're going to go to that first. We discussed that. And I told you what it is basically the majority leader's sidekick, if you will. Majority and minority leader basically helps to, push, an agenda for, whatever is on the table, for legislation, for governing purposes. Okay, the origin for it, hold on 1 second, because I'm going to share my screen. But let's do so in a manner that does not shock and awe. Let's see what we got here going. Let's close some things really quickly. And then all the while knowing that you can still see me. I can't see you as I attempt to do what I'm doing, just to clean up things so that I know that I normally have 8 million tabs open. So, I'm just trying to be a little more diligent this go round. All right, here we go. I swept up a little bit. Okay, let me share my screen. All righty. Okay, origin of WHIP. term whip, oh, great, because it comes right from the Senate. This is wonderful. Senate.gov has an explanation for it, and that's awesome because that's a verifiable source. And remember, we're always speaking about the verifiable sources of information as information of information as opposed to, getting that information secondhand. So we can dispel disinformation and misinformation and get swiftly and succinctly within the beautiful boundaries of logic and reason. And then we can head down that narrow path of wisdom and enlightenment together. All right, so it says both parties in the Senate elect whips. The term whip comes from a fox hunting expression, whipper in, referring to the member of the hunting team responsible for keeping the dogs, oh wow, from straying from the team during a chase. Wow. Established early in the 20th century, the development of party whips coincided with the evolution of party leaders in the Senate. Wow. So they could have called it maybe something like a shortened term of parliamentarian, or a nod to parliamentary procedure and keeping order amongst the legislative members as opposed to a wrangling of their pets during the hunting. Okay, so anyway, Democrat James Hamilton Lewis of Illinois became the first party whip in 1913. That's the same year for the Delta Sigma Theta, I believe. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. And the Republicans established their own whip position 2 years later. So this was a decision by Democrats initially. Very interesting. Traditionally serving as assistant leaders, whips are mainly responsible for counting heads and rounding up party members for votes and quorum calls. And they occasionally stand in for the majority or minority leaders in their absence. In 1970, Republicans began referring to their whips as assistant leaders, but in 2003, they began using the whip title again. Yeah, I think assistant leader would have been appropriate. So in 2003, very interesting. So, and then they show a whole list of these Republican Party whips, if you will. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Let me read this one more time. In 1970, Republicans began referring to their whips as assistant leaders, but in 2003, they began using the whip title again. Is this the Clinton administration? 2003. Look, don't judge me. We're doing this together. I told you I don't know everything. I don't know everything. President, I don't remember, friends. Bush. I was okay, yeah, because then okay, right, and it was George W. Bush before, so it was very interesting. Hey, look, don't. All right, so let's go back. Very, very interesting. Democrats used the title whip until 2003, when they began calling the position assistant leader. I wonder what so they were flip-flopping. I wonder, to be a fly on the wall without having to be a fly on the wall, right? To be a fly on Mike Pence's head during a private legislative session. Very interesting. In 2017, Democrats created a new position of assistant leader, which is separate from and ranks directly below the position of whip. The term doesn't sit well with me for many reasons. what I've already shared. It just seems to be this simile, or, you know, with wrangling, you know, a herd, if you will. I mean, you know, they're saying that, you know, they're getting their dogs in order from straying, you know, from a team during a chase. So they're chasing legislation. I guess we have this metaphor here. They're chasing, you know, the agenda for the session. And if the team, albeit Democrats or Republicans, you know, all together, they are literally a team, whether or not they conduct themselves as such. And of course, this can be blameworthy on both parties, but mainly we've seen a consistent characteristic of non-compliance, abandon of ethical legislation and ethical governing. We've seen that mainly from Republicans, and being uncooperative and disdainful and belligerent and childish. You know, we have so many adjectives. So, but again, you know, I've definitely seen my share of belligerent Democrats and non-cooperative or uncooperative Democrats. So there you have it. That is the history for WHIP. I'm actually going to bookmark this. Ding. Not in online shopping. Okay. All right. I put it in my folder, Reunited States. Okay, because we don't really act united. Okay. All right. And you know that this is my part of my goal is to inspire more focus on the legislative aspect of realizing the reform that we seek. We are many people in solidarity using different mechanisms, none of which have been or are legislation specifically. When it gets to that arena, it seems that activists and organizations at best just try to influence the legislators, but don't dive all the way in and really assume the status of we the people to effect the change that we need to see. I want us to be there. I want us to assume that responsibility, to know it is our own responsibility as well. And not so much as that it, you know, like burdensome, but that we should be front and center with our legislators. And because they are just there to represent us, to liaise the people's collective will toward reform. And even though the yays versus the nays on the change that we want and the change that we need to be a more evolved society, to go toward greater good, to protect the humanity, the, you know, ethics, you know, morality, something, you know, we don't have to be walking around skipping and holding hands and smiling crazy at each other. That I don't have that expectation. I don't think anybody in their right mind does. But I would like to get to the point where we don't have any mass shootings every week. It's a lot. It's a lot. Mass shooting, rape, COVID cases, 55,000, variant cases, 8,000, now in all 52 states. We need to focus on legislation. You see, ironically enough, that the naysayers who are in our legislative body, those legislators who are there and are not on the right side of justice, they know very well, they're not confused at all, that legislation is the sole vehicle to control and move their agenda forward, however evil it is. And there really is no better way to put it, because when you put restrictions, like for instance with the voting legislation, when you put restrictions out there on what is it? They're saying that it now for anyone other than a poll worker to provide water, refreshments, especially in the area where water, is important to those who would be standing in line, or maybe to the vulnerable community that would be standing in line waiting to vote. And when you say that it would be a criminal offense for anyone other than a poll worker to provide water, that's a very pointing, it's a very intentional inclusion of a stipulation into law. And so it's directed very specifically to suppress, to make things more difficult for a certain group of individuals, to frustrate. And they know very well that frustration, and disillusionment, it really obliterates voter morale. And the voter turnout is already low. We just cannot have this. We've got to understand our right and assert our onus for the process of legislation. Remember, I told you any one of us can write a bill. I showed you that they have different workshops. They start at the high school level and they have some at the college level. And I would imagine that they have them even beyond. I will make it a point to remember that. Let me make myself a note and look that up for alternatives for organizations like nonprofits whose mission is civil rights activism in all its variants, to learn how to write a bill and lobby and and get it introduced and on the floor and all those things, right? Okay, so let me put non-academic bill draft workshops. Okay. All right, so boom, there we have it. Now let's go to Pennsylvania. Easy does it. All right, so we're going there. All right, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. If you're just joining me and you've not had an opportunity to look at the beginning video or the video prior to, and you just stop by and happen to see that I'm live, I want to thank you for stopping by, number one. Please say hello, number two. Let me check over here and see if I have any questions. No, I'll say hello to you all. Say good day, gente, which means people. And please understand that I cannot tell I cannot see who is watching unless you actually interact. I can't tell the number of participants or watchers, viewers, until I end the live because of the integration method that I use, okay? All right, so then we're going to go back over here. And we go to Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But more importantly, not so much as that it's more important than the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but so that I complete my thought, I just wanted to express to you that what we're doing here is we are surveying the legislative culture for each state to determine whether or not there is a Democratic majority or Republican majority. Yes, we can look at previous data for voting records and things of that nature, but the reason why we are taking a more detailed approach and visiting their websites is also to inspire and to show and lessen the intimidation as it relates to researching each state and their representatives. And with the hope that this will be a catalyst for individuals, voters, those who are not registered to register to vote, number one, to feel more vested in the process, to feel that it's not as difficult to have a full understanding of how best to vote. And I can appreciate someone who says, well, I don't vote because I just don't have a good understanding of it. And we have to be mindful that not all of us have the same level of education, not all of us process information the same way, not all of us have access to the same opportunities. So this is what this is about. So we can do it together, and then alternatively and additionally at the same time to collectively draw up a strategic implementation plan on how to propose the implementation of a more perfect union. And not only just a mere proposal, but to lobby for this implementation to actually be ratified, if you will, and then enforced. Because we need there to be change now for the betterment of our future and future generations. All right, so here we go. We talked about the Commonwealth before, and remember, there's no difference at all, okay? Still a state, although colloquially, the Commonwealth states have always been associated with more of a hyper presence of racism, if you will, against especially those of us who are of the diaspora or African Americans, okay? All right, so here we are. Welcome to Pennsylvania. This looks harmless. You know, I'm a wetland scientist, so the plants, I love that, but that could be misleading. So we're going to go over here. This may not be the site we want. This is a government site. Sometimes and often each state, as we've seen, has a government site, and then they have the legislative body site. And of course, the government implies and includes the legislative body, but sometimes they separate them for obvious reasons. Okay, just to make it more user-friendly for its residents and visitors. Okay, so we're gonna go back. We're going to put in Pennsylvania Legislature, and it comes up perfect. So we're gonna go there, okay? And just as presumed, they definitely have a separate website for the Senate, House, and laws, okay? The laws is a whole nother thing, and they're called statutes. I believe that most of us have that understanding. We'll just click over here, just generally. I'm, just want to kind of move around the website and see, you know, if it's visually appealing and user friendly, because that's important as well. I do always appreciate the websites that have a specific area, as you see here, for recent laws, or this would include repealing, which is getting rid of a law, amending, which is changing or editing, revising a law, and then ratification, which is introducing, you know, and bringing into effect or enacting a new law altogether. So these are important to know. And if you do nothing else, as I always tell people, to read the criminal code for each state that that you assume residence, that's going to be the most important. And then secondarily, read the recent laws, and then any chapters in the statutes that relate to whatever line of business you're in, albeit self-employed, running a corporation, or an employee. You need to know the laws that govern your line of business. All right, so General Assembly looks like it's pretty straightforward as opposed to New York, as we spent some time in New York. We have senators, so let's go, and it says they list them alphabetically, and they have them listed by district as well. Okay, so let's go list it alphabetically. And move myself over here. Okay. All right, and again, this is the members of the Senate. All right, so we're just going to count up, because that's another thing. Whereas the voting or election results and history of partisanship for the United States will show whether a state is blue or red, blue for Democrat, red for Republican. They do not convey, that color in and of itself does not convey the individual makeup of the Senate and the House. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it is inherent in the designation, and sometimes, you know, there's a little more breakdown to it. So here we go. We're going to continue with our assumption. Again, for those of you who are new, those of you who are returning, generally, we have found that the Republican Party is not on the right side of justice, and generally, on the other side, the Democrats are generally on the right side of justice. Again, these are assumptions that we have agreed upon for the sake of this study, if you will, in this 52-week series. Please do not take it out of context. If you're a Republican and you are on the right side of justice and you find yourself voting in a consistent manner with justice, then please continue to join us. I really am a huge proponent of nonpartisanship, but I understand completely how partisanship really is the underpinning of our democracy. Okay, so let's go. We're gonna go rows, not columns. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 rows. 16 rows of 3. And so that's 48 minus 1, 2, 3 for these rows that just have 2. So 45 members of the Senate. All right, so let's get to counting. We'll start with Democrats this go round since we started with Republicans in New York, I believe. Okay. So Democrats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right. And then subtraction is a beautiful thing. We know we have this is, look, very quick algebra, algebraic question, if you will. So we know 45, we know our Z, we know our Y, which is going to be 20. We need to find our X. All right, so then that's 25 Republicans, 20 Democrats. So that means that there's a Republican majority. And then the other thing that we take a look at, which is also not a catch-all, but these are just general safe assumptions. We want to see diasporan representatives to generally be on the right side of justice with the Democratic Party, and it looks like that's the case. They provide pictures, as most of the websites have, which makes sense. In fact, no websites on the members, well, let me be more specific. No official legislative driven website should be void of their pictures. Okay, so yeah, all the Democrats look to be women and men who are wonderfully diasporan or from other ethnicities, and we don't see any of them that have identified themselves as Republicans, because sometimes that can be a red flag. Again, not a catch-all, but it can be a red flag. All right, let's go over to the House. Okay. And I like this as well. I like the transparency with the dates for the sessions for the House and Senate. That's very important. And it is required, but sometimes it is obfuscated, again, too often by the Republican side. So just keep in mind that you can and are privy to the minutes, the information that was, shared during a session. For the most part, there are generally no completely private sessions. Even if those sessions are revealed or disclosed after the fact, the purpose of it, it is our right to know. Excuse me. Okay, so let's go to the House. All right, members of the House right here. Okay. And this is not showing up well. Let's try to refresh the page. Some of the pictures, there we go, are not showing. All right, they've got 3 to a row as well. A lot of House members. Oops, be gracious. All right, so let's go on back up. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, my goodness, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. Wow. All right, so let's go back up. Wait, there's 2 a row there. So we got 27, carry that 2, 42. So 440, right? 447, but we're going to minus. Let's make sure I got that right. As I said, yeah, not times 7 times 3, 6 times 3. So we're looking at 207, not 447. 207, and then we're going to subtract a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excuse me. So 201 basically. All right. And now let's see what we got. Democrats again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. All right, so 201 minus 90, again with our algebraic equation. All right, so then basically 130 Republicans. Very interesting. So, okay. Now we knew that Pennsylvania was red, and we can, this is something you can very easily Google as well. Okay. And you can also look up voting history. Let's see here. Let's just see red state history. I did not want to spell Pennsylvania correctly today, huh? Okay. Presidential voting trends in Pennsylvania. Ballotopedia is generally reputable. Pennsylvania voted for the winning presidential candidate 77% of the time between 1900 and 2020. Between 2000 and 2020, 66.7% of the time. So it's very interesting. Very interesting. 14 Democratic wins, 16 Republican wins. But generally, it's been a red state. Let's see. How long? It still keeps bringing me there to Wikipedia, and which is not always reliable information. I'm not familiar with 270 to win. If you are, you watch this video, please let me know what source you use on a regular basis to verify this type of information. Let's see. Maybe if I do it this way, red and blue states. History. Maybe we'll get something from, yeah, maybe 270 keeps popping up. Maybe it is verifiable. We're gonna go to the New York Times and see what they've got here. Probably just an article. Let's see. Oh, wow. Isn't that interesting? It's going through and showing. That's pretty cool. I'm actually going to link this because this is actually pretty cool. So 1976, 1984, the entire country was red. Good gracious. 2008, then you see the transition to blue. 1964, 1976, when I was born, the country was divided. So interesting. Just so interesting. Very, very interesting. But we also know, we've discussed this on this channel, that there has been much discussion about the express fact that African Americans did identify early on as Republicans. And that, of course, has shifted along with the Republican primary narrative that is always, or damn near always, consistent with an agenda that is completely so far away from the right side of justice. So this is 1968, Nixon defeats Humphrey. 1972, wow, Massachusetts was a Democratic state. That's, wow. And that was to keep Nixon in office. 1976, as I was mentioning to you, I think I may just have this and put this on my wall. This is very interesting. Carter defeats Ford, 1976. Looks like the country is pretty much divided. 1980, Reagan 1984, Reagan maintains his seat. Bush. In 1992, I don't know what I was thinking because I was in high school. So many years have passed. I graduated in 1994. Wow. 1992. Yeah, I remember Perot. That was very interesting race. And then Clinton defeats Dole. It was still half and half, basically. Very divided nation. 2000, Al Gore. This is a very, very interesting thing. And this is what I have continued to say, that even when Obama defeated Romney, look at the nation. It's become, and this is my biggest concern with look at this and the history of this. And I'm going to post this right now on my Facebook page. Let's get there. I propose and I have observed that election results comprise a very divided nation. Effectively, every election, presidential and for the states that have been of interest to me, and the lower agencies of government, so your county and city government, the votes are nearly half and half for whomever the candidates may be. Now, of course, there are one-off occasions, like in the case where I ran for mayor, it was a very clearly rigged race, if you will. And I say this because notwithstanding my importance in the race at all, there were other parties that were running against the now mayor. And the votes were just significantly almost non-existent for me. I believe I got 99 votes or whatever. And for the other two candidates, they had very, very significantly low votes as well. But all in all, ironically enough, the current mayor, she didn't rack up more than, if I remember correctly, and I'll look it up. Actually, let me look it up. I'll show you. So this is Battlepedia. This will show us. I want to say like 30,000. And there's so many people here in Charlotte, like nearly 1 million. And most are registered to vote. Let me go. And so this is why the bipartisanship becomes such a problem, because when it's like you have this feuding couple, right? And if there is no mediator, and the Green Party nor the Independent Party have been impactful enough to serve as an apt alternative party, even though they do have a verifiable and substantial presence, and they do have their candidates on the ballot, but not enough to manage this divide, this constant bickering between the Republicans and the Democrats. And it's just this constant thing, this constant struggle for power. And they're just, like it just never ending. And I likened it to the good and evil, and they switch off who's going to be evil, in this decade and who's going to be evil in this decade. It's just, Don't you all think this is cuckoo crazy? It's madness. It's absolute madness. All right, so I'm gonna, this is the quickest way to pull it up. All right, so this, where is it? Well, why doesn't it have, hold on, oh yeah, here we go. Did they take us out of the, oh, I was like, what in the world? Okay, so that was the 2019. And evidently, I believe I was written in for, no, here we go. Yes, so I received 17,976 votes when I ran for Board of Commissioners. And thank you again to all of those who voted for me. I really appreciate it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so yeah, 70,000 votes. 70,000 votes in a city where there are, let's do it. Mecklenburg County, how many registered voters? Okay. Let's see which one gives us. I just want current voter registration. I just want a number statewide. Okay, countywide. We're going to go to the county. Hoping I don't have to download this. I may have to. It's just gonna give me the whole. Okay, hold on one second. Let me grab this and put this in a place where it will be useful for us later on. I won't forget where it is. Okay. And I still don't see any questions. If you have questions after the live feed ends, please do submit your questions in the comments and I will circle back and answer your questions most willingly. Okay. Get here. All right, so this is, let's create a folder, voter mech. Okay. All right, so let's see what it's giving us in here. I'm not really sure what this is. All the addresses and all that jazz. Okay, I just want a number. I just want one flat number. How many registered voters in North Carolina? Why doesn't it just give me that? Current voter level registration records, snapshots of voter registration records over the years, election specific voter demographics. And it's still in this type of file. Why is there no just number? Okay, here. All right, let me try it another way. Let me go back to the county data. Maybe they, yeah. Voter data, file, shape, voting records. Yeah, so that's, that's not what we want either. Demographic reports, let's see, it's gotta give us this. Voter registration, search by district. Charlotte. Search. I don't know what we're gonna get here. Okay, it gives us the precinct, total party, Republican. So you have to, hopefully it's added. Hopefully there's a total at the end. Okay, yeah, this is kind of interesting. All right, so the totals, 586,321. Ethnicity by party. And there's a breakdown. We're going to keep this as well. I'm going to post this as well, because this is interesting. Did it post? I'm not sure if it posted. Let me make sure. This is very, very interesting. 500. So apparently there are 586,000 or so registered voters in Charlotte. But let's go back to this. But you notice this was the race for this is the mayoral race. 60,000 people voted for Vilaus. About 3,000 for Roderick Davis, and about 3,000 for Lucille Puckett, and just about 3,000 for Joel Oldham. And I said 99. So 924 votes for me. And this is funny because they actually reported only 99 votes. I don't know if you all remember that news report. That's very interesting. That was supposedly after all the tallies, all the totals came in, right? Very, very interesting. This alone does not break, 333. We're just slightly over 70,000 votes. And yet there are 586,000 right here and 321 registered voters designated by precincts. They probably attend precinct meetings, probably have attended forums. And this is what we have. The Republican Party by ethnicity, 108,000 total. Democrats, 271,000. So this is definitely a blue area. Libertarian, about 4,000. Unaffiliated, 20,000. Green, 409. Conservative, it looks like 364. This is amazing. And then when you look at the Black or African American, so we go with not Hispanic. And let's not even include the not designated. 151,069 voters of this tally are African American, and only 60,000 or let's just say 70,000 individuals voted for that mayoral race. And if you don't see the issue, if you don't see the problem, hey, so you're getting a little loud. If you don't see the problem like I see the problem, then that's the problem. And that's why I know a lot of people were so concerned. They were like, well, we wanted you to win, and but I can't win if you don't go out and vote. And then, of course, I was not born today, nor did I just learned, y'all, like y'all say, I just learned today, today years old, that type of thing. I know that some people will just say that, they'll just say that in conversation just to, because it's awkward for them if they decided not to vote for me or don't vote at all. They don't want to let me know. So they just say things like, oh, I voted for you, or I wanted you to win, just to, to evade the conversation altogether or evade having to go into any further detail, right? But this is not good. This is not good. And I would not ever see this as a reflection of my worthiness. How would I see that as a reflection of my worthiness when 586,000 individuals are intentionally registered to vote, but don't vote? That is such a telling act. Remember, especially in recent years, even though this has been a practice for many, many decades before even my generation, and of course, before my generation, baby boomers, they were restricted from voting, basically altogether by law, right? So the fact that we have the freedom to vote, and those freedoms are always under attack by those who are not on the right side of justice, and yet we don't go out and vote. And what has been shown, when they don't vote, when voters choose not to vote, it is completely intentional. It is an act of rebellion. It is an act of disdain for the candidates that are available, or it's an act of disdain for the institution of government as a whole. So no, I wouldn't see it as some reflection of my lack of worthiness, because they're not protesting Tigress McDaniel. They're protesting the institution of government that has failed us repeatedly. And the fact that she won with 60,000 votes is not impressive at all, because there are definitely 60,000 corrupt populations. There are definitely 60,000 people in Charlotte willing to corrupt their own morals, their oath of office, whatever, to ensure that she would have that seat. So that's not impressive at all when there is a body of 586,000 individuals who are registered to vote here in Charlotte. I would love to know, please, if you see this video, you live in Charlotte, please tell me, if you're one of those individuals, why didn't you vote? Why didn't you vote for her? Why? Why didn't you vote for me? Why didn't you vote for Lucille? Why didn't you vote for Joel? And don't let me forget the other, because I don't want to. And why wouldn't you vote for Roderick, right? And of course, there are some answers to that. There are assumptions that can be made as to why certain people did not receive votes. And then wildly enough, I got a lot of individuals who are saying, I didn't even know you were running for office. Well, that's the whole trick. Just like they say that popular saying, the coolest trick that the devil ever, pulled off was convincing people that he didn't exist, right? Well, here you go. Like, they're convincing everyone that the election is just really not necessary. And where it is necessary, it's rigged. So you voting is not going to matter anyway. That can't be farther or further from the truth. Literally, farther in numbers, as I've just pointed out, and further in concept. You must vote. Legislation is the vehicle for the change we seek, period. This is how the legislation is changed, by the legislators we elect. If you elect legislators who are willing to corrupt their oath of office, or have already taken an oath to those legislators who intend to just puppeteer them, they're just filling up space. They don't even have any intention of really voting, really making any type of difference. They already have a plan of corruption that is well set in place before they announce their candidacy for an office. Do you understand what I'm saying? All right. Well, it's 5:01, and this is just, it started off kind of, all of these sessions have been this interesting in this regard. And I hope that you agree. You may not be watching them with me live, but I see that you all are slowly, visiting and viewing the series episodes. And sometimes we start off just a little uneventful, And then as we dig further, it's just one discovery after another, after another, after another. So I've posted these on my Facebook page, which of course is just at Tigress, at C Tigress Run. Because these are just very interesting. Where's the, we want this one too, this map. Excuse me. Special election, I think, 2000. Let me go back, make sure. Yeah, because this was just a primary. And this is the big issue too. A lot of people don't vote in the primary. So a lot of people were thinking that, you did so poorly. No, again, most of you don't recall that you don't recall. It's downplayed intentionally by those who are not on the right side of justice. They downplay the importance of the primary, so much even that a lot of voters don't even know what the primary election is. Even where they have heard the term, they don't associate it with the first kind of filtering out, if you will, of a lot of candidates for one particular office. And this is what happens in those cases. She'll say it was an easy win. 70,000 votes is all it took for her to win. 586,000 registered voters. Change was right there, right beneath, what they say, right under your nose. All right, let me post this as well. And then I'm going to also, let me make sure we got that. So let's post that. And actually I need to change it to 70. So let me change it really quickly so it reflects accurately. Don't want any disinformation. And then I'll post the other two sites. And then that's a wrap. Let's not allow this to happen again. And not as it just relates to a Tigress McDaniel. Yes, I will be on your ballot for this upcoming election. Yes, the candidacy begins, the filing begins in July, or excuse me, I believe, don't get me wrong. It begins, actually, let's check it real quick. It ends in July, I believe. Ends July 5th-ish, 3rd, something like that. I always remember it because of, of course, the 4th of July. Let's see when it begins. But let me post this really quickly. But we can't have this again, especially when it's just so, it's very feasible. I won't say easy, because as soon as we put the effort in, they will come against us with equal effort to perpetuate more confusion, spread more disinformation, and basically just, throw us off of our game. But it's very feasible for us to secure the legislative change that we want if we secure the seats in the government across the nation that we need to do so. All right, so here we go. That's posted. Let me post this as well. Post mine. Some of you have been to my page on Ballotopedia, so let's do that as well. Okay. And then we're going to go and check out MEC election information. Oh, wait, information for candidates. All right, offices on the 2021 ballot and filing fees. Other information coming soon. It's not giving me anything. Hold on, because I pulled it up once before. Let me just go here. I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Filing opens at noon on Friday, July 2nd. So I was incorrect. So it's open for about 2 weeks. Closes at noon Friday, July 16th for the towns of Cornelius, Davison, Huntersville, Matthews, Mint Hill, Pineville, and Stallings. Filings for school board and the Charlotte City Council districts opens at noon on Monday, July 26th, and closes at noon August 13th, all 2021. I'm going to print this and save it. And then I'm going to also post this link as well. Well, as I always say, it is my absolute pleasure to be able to have the great opportunity and wherewithal, mentally, physically, and emotionally, to come to you and do this on a weekly basis. It means the absolute world to me. And I'm just very, very, very humble, very confident in what we can achieve through this process. So again, my name is Tigress Sydney Acute McDaniel. Please join me again next week for a 52-week series on how to implement a more perfect union. This has been Evolve Weekly. Have a wonderful week. Bye, y'all.